Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 157 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. Today, we're just going to go over the news for agency updates with regards to USCIS, CBP, the courts, and just a lot of different practice ideas that pop up. As always, the disclaimer, this is just general advice, it's general guidance. It's not even unusual. It's not advice or guidance. It's just information. You should consult with an immigration attorney in private about your case. But it's always interesting to go through this stuff and seeing what's happening in our practice area, especially because it seems everything changes every 4 or 5 hours, which is very obnoxious. But at the same time, that's job security. So, what else should we talk about this to start? A reminder to everybody, one is the Champions for Freedom program, the marriage immigration training program I have. Talked about the I-130 consular processing adjustment, especially for new people who are getting involved here. One thing you see with practicing immigration laws, you got to get your feet wet and do something once, or someone hold your hands through something. And after that, you're like, oh, I can understand it's easy, but you kind of need that help to go through it once to make sure you're doing it to as much as possible correctly and to get that confidence to get things up and running. So I set up this course where we're doing that. It's going to be a seminar group course kind of thing. So you could get questions and see questions from other people too that you may not have been thinking of at the time. It starts November 3rd, Tuesday. It's 4 to 6 weeks. I say 4 to 6 weeks to give it more time if it goes over. And we need, there's a lot of discussion. We need more time. Happy to include that in there. But just email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com for information about that. And a second housekeeping is DocuWise is so kind to sponsor the program. DocuWise is a great all-in-one immigration form and case management software, which I'm sure you all have heard of, but you should definitely get to start using. They do have free trials and all that stuff that I'll go through with you. I'm pretty sure they have a free trial. I know those things go through with you. But for me, I've been using it for a long time. And so if you mention this program, or actually if you go to DocuWise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast, you can get 10% off the annual plan, which the annual plans already has some percentage off, like 18% off or something. So it's definitely a hookup. Use that and you'll save a bunch of money. It's on an automatic it automatically collects information from clients through forms, questionnaires. It puts it all in there for you, so you don't have to type in your name a million times like I used to. And it also has like these multilingual questionnaires. So if you have foreign clients or Spanish speaking, for example, they even allow text messaging. That was a big thing that I spoke about. They're really happy about because some people cannot go online and fill out forms. Just different kind of clients have different kind of issues. And so if you could share information and collect stuff through text, how vital that'll be. It'll streamline your practice. I can imagine, because I don't have any clients who can't use the internet. I probably wouldn't accept that case. But if you do have that kind of case, if you had to go and request that they, try to call you to go through this stuff or come to the office, I mean, just text is so much easier. It's going to save you so much time and input all that information. So it's definitely something. There's a lot more features. We'll talk about it more every one of these shows. I'm going to talk more and more as features. It has so many good features. I can keep doing that. So I'm happy with it. Definitely check it out. Go to DocuWise.com/immigration-lawyers-podcast. And the code is Immigration Lawyers Podcast to get the 10% off the annual plan. And also, if you are listening to this, you enjoy the show, please leave a 5-star review and comment about it wherever you're listening, like iTunes, wherever else. It'd be much appreciated. So let's get it started. The last episode ended around September 19th-ish, September 19, 2020-ish. So I'm going to pick up from there. Today being, October 12th. Doesn't seem like that much time, but between these 2 or 3 weeks, there's a world of difference that happened. And boy, when we get to the visa bulletin portion, was that a big deal that happened, along with the Department of Labor changes for H-1B. It's crazy, but on the bright side, it created a lot of cases for me opportunity-wise. So it's been a busy week, good business. I guess that's that. I guess the travel bans had some sort of positive effect, if you will. I'd rather not have had that benefit. I'll have to say that disclaimer right there, because seeing all these people separated, families torn apart, it's a nightmare. So speaking of nightmares, ICE was sued for brutalizing a detainee at JFK. Apparently, this one person was going to be deported, got a court order, injunction, or a stay of some sort. I can't remember all the details, like 3 weeks ago. But he was like, they were trying to kick him out, trying to put him on a plane to take him out at JFK. And he's like, no, it's not right. Here's the order. They started beating him up and stuff. So they're being sued for that. ICE is being sued for that, for doing something like that. It's just so crazy that they can't get their paperwork in order still with all this technology. Technology means nothing if you don't use it. So that's really one of those things. Another thing that popped up, and it's not directly related to immigration, but there's so many shootings going on in Chicago that the postal workers threatened to stop delivering mail after several of their employees were shot. And this affects us a lot because we deal with the Chicago lockbox if you're filing an adjustment case. So it becomes scary. We already have this where you submit something priority express mail, which is the USPS version of next day mail, and you send it. It takes like 3 days to get there, and that kind of deadline when you have different filing deadlines could be a disaster. And some people do FedEx and stuff, but I've sent them with FedEx and they've been late too. So I just stick with USPS. A lot of attorneys don't do that. If they're afraid to deliver mail in Chicago and the Chicago lockbox is there, it's like, oh boy, we got some problems there. So what's next? So a quick note. Our one of the friends of the show and a sponsor, Jared Jascott, is immigration attorney out in the East Coast, doing a lot of humanitarian type cases. Really great. He created a bot, so it's called Yotango bot, which allows people to who contact your office on social media, for example, on Facebook or WhatsApp, to talk with this computer system to help organize the situation, see if you can help them, get their contact information, maybe even schedule consultations, provide videos that you've done that respond to the type of question they have and stuff. And I'm about to get it set up to practice it, but it's a real cool thing because I'm going to test it out. But Jared was so kind. He said, if you sign up for service, not even sign up, you sign up for a test trial of it, which is 30 days free, we'll add another 30 days in there. So you have 60 days of trial in there for free to see if something is useful. And 60 days is really key because you need the more time to develop it. It might take 30 days, nothing happens, just because you're setting up the system and things are up and running, and you might not see the payoff for a longer time. So you were so kind as to allow a 60-day trial period. Just contact them, Yotango bot. BOT is the bot. It's not but bot. But tell them Immigration Lawyers Podcast sent you, and I'll be happy to do it. English Toolbox Podcast, whichever. And reason this came up is they got their first venture check, so they have investors coming. This is going to be a software that everyone's using. It's going to go up there, so get in there first. That's one thing I realized. If somebody's new, get in there first. Take advantage of the first comer opportunity while it's there. Before everyone else crowds out the market, everyone has a bot. Be the first one to get that. And it's not even the first one. We have like top people in the field. One of his customers is this one attorney that she does she's got like 170,000 YouTube subscribers. She's nonstop getting bombarded by people. And she had her own bot, and she used his. It's like, oh, his is much better, converts much better. So that's a glowing recommendation about that. I wish I knew remember her name, but she was an inspiration for me as well, because I saw how well she did with her live videos and stuff. I was like, I got to get into live as well. I'm like less than 1% of the amount of people watching that she does. But even that is great for me. I can't imagine how busy she is, how much business she's getting. All right. So, another news note, about a quarter of the UK's top earners are migrant status, shows the Guardian has a post. So when people look at the immigration situation, usually they always think about, the worst case scenario when someone's coming here in a with nothing. But even those people rise and become the cream of the crop. Which is consistently the case in the United States in particular. But we have statistics here now in the UK that, top earners, quarter of them, and that's probably a small portion of the population, but still a quarter. So it's way above their percentage of the population that they're earning as top earners. So that's something really special. The work that we do is that significant because we're helping the economy in the country that we live in. Now, sad news, public charge is back. So when I'm recording this right now, it's October 12th. As of tomorrow, I think it's posted. I can't remember the details, but you got to send the form I-944 adjustment of status in with the application for adjustment of status for all that's back. For people that had submitted the I-485 without the I-944, even during the injunction, they will get an RFE for that, which sucks. I had one case that we filed without it, so I want to prepare that. I'm gonna start preparing that. The rest of them I submitted anyways because I was like, a case were good, so I had nothing to worry about. I'm like, let's just do it. I have all this stuff ready to go. And these people, a lot of them were like H-1B spouses. There's like person on H-1B, they get married. They have H-1B, they have work, they have income, they have a Social Security card. So we get the credit check, that health insurance. So I was lucky it was easy. But I'm sure this is such a nightmare in general. I have one or two cases. It's going to be a headache to get it all together. I think I need to double check on this, but the DS-5540 either still has an injunction or consular process is not requiring it. Someone on one of the listservs has said, how do we prepare this? Embassy asked, and I followed up. I'm like, which embassy asked for that? Because in general, they're not asking for it. for the DS-5540, the consular processing public charge. But also, I think that there was a separate injunction against them. I have to look into that. So if you get these kind of stuff, look into it. Maybe you could challenge the consular officer and say, hey, that's not needed. I mean, I have issues. So when you deal with consular, you never know. Because I have a case where a person is exempt from the I-864 because their parents are U.S. citizens. As soon as they enter the U.S. with a green card, they become citizens as well. And they're asking for I-864. So I'm like, it's not needed. But the problem is, once the I-944 came and the public charge rule came in, they got rid of the form I-864W that's for that. So I was able to find an old PDF of it online and have the client fill that in and take the embassy. But they're just like, no, we need I-864. I mean, back and forth. But I'm like, listen, just go and give that to them and show them. And I wrote an email describing it because even in the Foreign Affairs Manual, it does state that this is the situation of this exemption. So it's always extra work. It was supposed to be an easy case. Nope. It's ever easy. So that public charge rule situation is here. Be prepared for that. As I mentioned in my last podcast, where I did an interview with our colleague Fiona McEntee, she started her podcast. It's called Immigration Revelation. Check that out. It should be a lot of fun. It's great to have colleagues jump in and add to the mixing pot of information online about this kind of stuff. I'm always happy to support people. Also, we have Kevin Gregg of Immigration Review. He does a great job in going in deep and analyzing court cases, district court cases, federal court cases about different immigration stuff. And he was kind enough to come once a month to go over some of the main cases that he saw for the month. So we'll have him over, I don't know, it's like next week or week after, we're going to do that recording. But it's really cool to work together on this stuff. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more of Fiona's work. It's a lot of work to these podcasts. And I think she's starting to do it. She said she wants to do it once a week. Good luck. I'm sure she's going to do it, but it's a lot of work. So you need a lot of help. And speaking of other colleagues, Roman Zelchenko, a great friend of the show, hope to have him on soon. He has his own podcast about immigration tech and marketing. And so, he's heavy on LinkedIn. Definitely follow Roman Zelchenko, Z-E-L-I-C, and then Chenko. I spell the whole thing, but if you just put in Roman, just like the Romans, and a Z, it'll pop on your LinkedIn. He does a lot of information for being a good marketing person, and talks a lot about the technology in our field, former immigration attorney himself. So check that out as another podcast. I'm always happy to support colleagues that are doing good work. So no problem here. Just check it out. And one thing I want to contact him about is this situation, get his take on this. Fragment, our beloved large firm in our field, bought Simple Citizen. So Simple Citizen, which actually it's a software to help people, kind of pro se file it with oversight of some sort by this group, Simple Citizen. That's the technology software. I don't know too much details about it. I'm trying to set up a time with Roman to talk about this in more detail, but unfortunately, having kids and work and all this kind of stuff at his end, all this stuff is hard coordinating our schedules. So we're going to set it up. But, Simple Citizen, I think Jacob Savorchnik, our colleague in San Diego, was one of the early investors in that. Was bought out by Fragment. What does that mean? Why would Fragment buy out a consumer-based, family-based immigration form software? Are they coming into this space? I don't know. We shall see. I'll try to get Roman so we can talk about his take on it. What does that mean? Fragment is going to be attacking what is essentially has been the purview and domain of small immigration firms doing family-based cases. I don't know, but we shall see. Our beloved Department of Homeland Security Secretary Wolf, who had the case that said he may be illegally appointed, so all his decisions may be illegal, had a report come out from thehill.com saying that more than $6 million in DHS contracts were awarded to a firm of his wife. His wife's firm was awarded that. He said he didn't know. $6 million coming in. You got to know, or, there's conflicts checks, there's all this kind of stuff. So that's what's happening right now in that space. Now, the H-1B field, we'll talk about in a second. One note, there's a job opening for a trial attorney with EOIR. Let me see what district it is. If y'all were interested in working on that side of things, we have people listening from everywhere here. If you're a good person doing good work, you're welcome everywhere. But I think this is the appellate district. Let's see, job description. Litigation section, appellate section. It's probably in DC, is it? Salary $86,000 to $170,000. It's a huge range right there. Occasional travel required. So it's with oil essentially. So if you're interested in becoming an oil appellate lawyer, check it out. Just go to EOIRjustice.gov/legal careers and check that out. That'd be an interesting thing to get into. Okay, so this is a massive situation. Executive Office for Immigration Reviews proposed rule for asylum and withholding removal. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but one thing that they're trying to do as well is require lawyers to reveal how much their clients pay them so the attorney could know, so the judge could know and stuff like that. I think it's a horrible decision. And it's going to put, the defendants, not defendants, I guess the applicants, whatever they call them in immigration court setting, at a disadvantage because they're spilling the beans on how much power they have to challenge things. So I think it's a wicked thing to do. I think in bankruptcy court they do that, so they get approvals for getting fees. But that's a whole different scenario. I don't think it's commensurate. I should have someone who's more goes to court. Again, I don't like talking about stuff which I don't do on a day-to-day basis, which is immigration court. So I'm probably gonna have someone over to talk about that. But be prepared. You got to challenge this stuff somehow. Maybe lawsuits to say what is this kind of stuff, along with the other changes that they're doing to the asylum and withholding process. Oof. Another thing which is weird is because of COVID and everything, the asylum office is requiring only the use of their interpreters now when you're going there, which kind of sucks because you got to rely on their interpreters doing a good job, which they probably are, but you always want to have your own person checking and stuff like that and be more comfortable. So that situation is popping up if you're going to the asylum interviews. They're going to tell you, if you don't bring your interpreter, we'll bring it, unless it's probably one of these languages that they don't have. So that's there. A colleague of ours, Marco Scanu, he does I don't think he's an attorney, but his business plans for immigration for Canada and the U.S. And he had an interesting blog where he wrote over the history of migration. I think it's interesting to check it out. His name is Marco Scanu. I'm bringing out, where's this article? Why is it open his profile? I want the article. Okay, no image popped up. Oh man. So essentially, I don't want to leave you hanging. Where is this article? Oh, okay. It's right there. Just say see more. Okay, that's just short enough. I'll read it. But before 1829, again, I give credit to Marco Scanu for this. But before 1829, the word "quote unquote" immigration didn't exist. Who invented it and why? In the 1600s and 1700s, America received thousands of European migrants. Also, around 278,400 Africans involuntarily migrated to the United States. Back then, these waves of people who left their native land were called immigrants with an E, or migrants. In 1755, the Dictionary of the English Language defined migration as, quote, an act of changing place, unquote. And a side note on that, I created a nonprofit foundation called the Migration Foundation. And the plan was always be bigger than just immigration, because migration is just a movement of moving from one place to another, changing place. It could be migrating your information from your laptop to your hard drive or something like that, your backup hard drive. And this movement is a key aspect of life and just movement in the universe. The Earth is migrating through the solar system and all that. And so this concept has to be really focused on, because it's just as important as love, as air, as water, the movement of things. And so that's something I really want to put a lot of focus on the future of my career. But okay, going back to says, this all changed in 1829. That year, Noah Webster, author of an American Dictionary of the English Language, invented the word immigration to remove into a country, and says the definition is to remove into a country for the purpose of permanent residence. An ardent American nationalist, Webster told Americans that the word immigration was associated with permanency and residency. Perhaps unconsciously, Webster set the stage for a foreigners against native-born confrontation, leading Americans to fear that foreigners would take their jobs and inundate their cities. And this is his, commentary. Webster's definition has shaped the way millions of Americans think of immigration. The story above is a living proof that words matter. Words have power, the power to eclipse or illuminate entire groups of people. And so the thing about that is, when we talk about immigration, an immigrant is a permanent resident. Then there's non-immigrants in the context of what we do, NIVs versus IVs. And that's something when I first started, when I was just doing the work, and I think about it, I just said, but when you say immigrant visas, that means particularly if you're going to become a permanent resident, and as opposed to a non-immigrant visa. It's a very technical term, but that immigrant aspect of the permanency of the residency comes from that. If a person is coming on a tourist visa, H-1B visa, they're not immigrants. They're non-immigrants, which this makes sense. But the non-immigrants goes to the fact not that they're not moving their physical body here, but they're not permanently moving, as opposed to just being a migrants or migrant workers and the like. All right. So one thing that popped up, and our colleague Liam Schwartz in Israel posted that, the FAM all of a sudden, without prior notice, deleted its section 402, which was procedures for non-immigrant visas. But once this popped up, people started notifying DOS. They brought it back. So that was a mess up on their part. But the big news is the Visa Bulletin, October 2020. Huge changes happened, create a lot of business, a lot of madness and chaos. With this idea of the EB2 downgrade to the EB3, which is submitting a new I-140 for the EB3, keeping the labor cert, all that stuff safe. Excuse the terminology. I don't do EB2 or EB3 other than the I-485 portion. People come to me. But we had a huge jump where USCIS surprisingly allows the date of filing for employment base, not just the final action date, which has triggered a lot of work. On my end, it's all positive because I don't deal with the employers that do this stuff, but I feel bad for your employees based immigration attorneys that are working on the company side, because you're getting slammed with I-485 requests, I-140 requests. It's business, but it's crazy business. And you really want to get this in October because you don't know if next month USCIS will all of a sudden say, oh, yeah, it's date of filing only. So it's a mad dash to file this kind of stuff and to get it in before things change, which is the constant in what we do. Now, some bad news. There's a proposed rule that's coming that the immigration department or DHS trying to put into place, establishing a fixed period of time of admission for students. So if you're a student exchange visitor and they're doing some stuff on foreign information media, which I'm not going to get into, but essentially for F1s, taking away DS, making it fixed, limiting the amount of extensions you could do, how much time on extension you get, how long your visa is, all this kind of stuff. I mean, not the visa because it's DHS, but there's massive changes coming to the immigration system. There's going to be lawsuits on this, hopefully, but it's going to make it so difficult. The student visa, it's so easy to make errors on it. Almost every day, it seems, where I'm contacted by F1 student who didn't know about some aspect of it. It's a complicated OPT issue that they made a mistake on, or EAD finally made a mistake on, and it causes them to lose out and have violations, which creates problems later. So it's just it's just so annoying. It's the only way to put it. It's so annoying that students have to go through this. And the laws are so complex. I literally have to study like every time you get a student visa, because it's not that I get that often, but it's just like, how do we deal with this issue? And the election's coming up. So, the election's coming up pretty soon, less than a month. And so we'll see what the consequences will be on that. All right, let me read this. The Attorney General has issued a decision in matter of A-C-A-A 2020. In conducting its review of an alien's asylum claim, the Board of Immigration Appeals must examine de novo whether the facts found by the immigration judge satisfy all the statutory elements of asylum as a matter of law. Ooh, that's a change, I guess. That's going to suck. So that's coming up. And then there's another one, matter of J-G-T 2020. In assessing whether to admit the testimony of a witness was as an expert, an immigration judge should consider whether it is sufficiently relevant and reliable for the expert to offer a foreign opinion, and if admitted, the immigration judge should then consider how much weight the testimony should receive. In considering, and two, how much weight to give an expert's testimony, the immigration judge should assess how probative and persuasive the testimony is in regarding to key issues in dispute for which the testimony is being offered. So essentially gives them carte blanche to just disregard expert testimony. Ugh. Okay, well, that's that. Sorry for people who go to court. It's a difficult time. One of our colleagues, Michelle Mendez, she's the immigrants' rights attorney, worked for Clinic. I had an interview with her sometimes back. She's working hard, really helping, pro se people and people just, caught up in the system. And she had an interesting post on LinkedIn. It just goes to the power of the marketing. She says, LinkedIn is not only connects professionals, it also unites families. Recently, a gentleman needing representation on a motion to reopen messaged me. The immigration judge told him that he could not grant asylum because the Trump administration barred asylum seekers from asylum if they crossed through another country on their way here unless they requested asylum in that third country. Despite the persecution he endured in his home country, his tough journey here, and being detained by immigration authorities for 6 months, this gentleman was limited to withholding removal, which meant he could not petition for his wife. Luckily, our allies challenged this bar in the federal court and won. When he learned about this victory, he searched for representation on his motion to reopen to seek asylum. That is when he messaged me via LinkedIn. So, LinkedIn a lot of times is thought about as a professional setting in a sense that you're going to get employment-based cases, investor cases, that kind of stuff. And people think, Facebook or other things, or maybe Twitter is for, asylum cases, court cases. But here you see a motion to reopen was found here. She says, my colleague, Amy Mary Salinas, consulted with him over the phone and agreed to represent him. The IJ granted the motion to reopen and asylum. Received this note from him, quote, God remained faithful as always. And with the good news Clinic and those two wonderful humans did to help me, I can finally hope of reuniting with my wife again someday. And just think about it. It just sucks being separated family. I have a growing family with kids and stuff, and I can't imagine being separated for like a day. Especially because I work from home. Even going to an adjustment interview is like tough for me because I'm separated from my family just for a couple hours. Imagine being detained and your family's back in a situation where they're being tortured, and it's just a horrible situation. He goes on and says, Clinic has attorneys with beautiful hearts, and I wish they could help more people who are in tough situations like mine, unquote. And so if you end of year, front of year, taxes are coming up. If you want to donate and get that donation tax write-off, or just donate, forget the tax write-off, Clinic is a great organization to do that with. I'm pretty sure they're at 501(c) blah, 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 IRS, so they get the deduction. So cliniclegal.org is the place to go. And if you do go and do it, say, John Khosravi and Michelle Mendez sent you there. So, who's helping. So as you know, the Immigration Judges Union is not too happy with what DOJ is doing. They're openly talking about that. And they had a tweet that says, DOJ and EOIR continue their effort to rewrite the nation's immigration law, stripping immigration judges from authority. Read NIJ's comment opposing this rule. So there's a rule that they're changing to limit immigration judge authority. So in one sense, they're giving more, and one sense, actually give more to the board because they have more control over that, and to the judges. But at the same time, they're really handicapping him on a lot of stuff, making life much tougher. So that's something that's popped up. As a reminder, for those who are doing O1 practice, especially, and for Toolbox members, we had a great panel. I think it's an awesome panel for intermediate to advanced people who are doing O's and P's. And even if you're a beginner thinking about going to O's and P's, you're going to learn a lot from here. Jeannie Doy, our great colleague right here in Los Angeles, hosted the panel, was the moderator. We had Jerry Marshall and David Telfer, and it was an O and P CLE, and it's California-based CLE in states that reciprocate. 1.5 CLE for about musicians. People do O and P for musicians. David Telfer got a team. He does a lot of good stuff on there. Jerry Marshall as well does musicians. So it's focused on that. And it was a great 1.5 hours. I was listening to it. It was a lot of information. I don't do O's and P's, but I'm like, oh, wow, this is vital information. They talk about the lawsuits they're doing, talking about the COVID situation that's affecting him, how to deal with clients and stuff. So if you're interested in that, it's $25 to buy this a la carte standalone. Go to ilt.thinkific.com or just email me. I'll send you a link. That might be hard to find it that way. But the website is ilt.thinkific.com. It has all these a la carte CLEs that the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox has. Or for $50 a month, get the whole barrage of stuff. And there's a dozen CLEs and more growing, coming out almost every week, new ones. It has my mastermind marketing recording that talk about, honestly, open honest, to say, this is what I did this month marketing, this is how it paid off, this is what didn't work. That itself is worth $10,000 at least, if not $100,000, to be honest. So just giving away the beans and everything. Is it giving away the beans? What does that sound that goes? So definitely check that out. I think it's a really good recording. All right. So next thing is this USCIS processing times. Let me skip that. Matter of HGG reverse. Also, this is really cool. There was a decision by the U.S. District Court in Minnesota. Matter of HGG was a case regarding TPS where they said that, if I'm remembering right, like if you're returning on TPS, you revert on advanced parole TPS, you revert back to the status you had before, but you still have TPS. Really bogus decision by the BIA. This district court said, yeah, get out of here. So hopefully that'll stay in there. I think it will, because just the way they handle TPS and their understanding of it is just so ridiculous. So I'm very happy with that decision. Now, the National, who is this group? National Foundation for American Policy had this. Daniel Horn, my colleague, partner at Jackson, her talk says, the DHS is knowingly relying on flawed reports as a pretext for the overall policy in the rule and to limit the admission periods for students from specific countries with circular logic. The 10% overstay rate threshold contained in the proposed rule comes not from an immigration law, but from a presidential memorandum on overstay issues on April 22, 2019, that uses the same flawed DHS overstay report. So this National Foundation for American Policy finds flaws with that, and that's what Daniel was talking about. This 10% overstay for F1 students report. Yeah, probably it is bogus. 10% is a lot. Okay, so Aaron Reichland Melnick, if you're on LinkedIn, on Twitter, he tweets a lot of content kind of stuff. So it's good to follow at Reichland Melnick. I'm sure it's gonna be hard to find with that. That says REICHLINMELNICK. But he says they're proposing, EOIR is proposing a new regulation that would expressly permit individuals to ghostwrite legal briefs and prepare applications for pro se respondents but require disclosure. So that's really good because it gives more access for people that are pro se to do that. So it's a surprising thing that UR is doing that. Michelle Mendez was actually working on this, and maybe we talked about this issue with UI or BI of how to deal with this issue of ghostwriting and help, especially that stuff that they do. I'm glad some good things are coming about it. Audrey Lustgarten, I had the interview with her as well. She's a global migration attorney doing all over the world. She posted that some good news. There's been significant relaxation of global travel restrictions in key parts of the world. If you want to check out what's going on with global migration restrictions, her website, actually, when you go to it, has a map. Go to lustgartenglobal.com, LUSTGARTEN global.com. And there's a map that shows what's going on. So you have clients who want to go and, do something overseas. They could get some information on that. She's an expert on global migration. It's a lot of fun. An interview I did with her, learned about being an immigration attorney for the globe. That's really cool kind of stuff. So definitely check that out. Reach out to her if you had some questions about or needed a lawyer that deals with outbound migration. So the big news, October 2nd came and went, and the fee increase was put on hold. So it was slammed that week, finally, getting I-751s together, the N400s together, all this kind of stuff to file it, to take advantage of the, the decreased fee before it goes up, and holding on to my I-90s because the I-90 fees were going to go down actually. But, there was an injunction, and, I talked about this with our colleague, Kevin Gregg, about the court decision that came to this, which said potentially Wolf was illegally put in place, so the decisions he made don't work. So it's just groundbreaking. We'll see what happens with that. I'm surprised there's no follow-ups to that. But because of that, that and some other things probably, that the rule change was not proper. So you don't get a fee increase. Now, the problem with all this is USCIS needs money because they blow through all of it apparently. And so what's going to happen is, they're going to be slower and stuff or not pay overtime or whatever is needed. So we're still going to get hit by this. And so there has to be, unfortunately, an increase in the fees, but hopefully it could just be done better. It's a mess. Leah Schwartz, our colleague in Israel, was posting that the Tel Aviv embassy or consulate just canceled all visa appointments through October. So one thing they're doing constantly in Israel, especially because Israel is opening shut constantly because of COVID, is schedule the interviews, they cancel them, they schedule them. It's a mess. So another thing that's popping up now with the jump in the visa bulletin, especially for Indian kind of cases, and Robert Weber brings it to our attention. If you're an EB2 Indian with a pending I-485 application, it might be prudent to do a new I-693 medical exam and hold the sealed exam results, as it is possible to get an RFE during October, November. Essentially, you just be mindful of the medical exam delays that are happening. Do it before or not. I usually just tell people to wait for the RFE to do it instead of submitting with it, because we don't know when the actual decision is going to be made. It might be, expired by that time. So just hold on to it. You'll get an RFE. Our colleague Jeannie Doy was posting that usually she would get a reminder notice. Now she got a notice for EB case that had no medical. It said, we're going to stop working on your case until you send it to us. Very rough language as opposed to the kind of gentle language that they used to do. And also, don't forget the I-485Js, man. Like, you got to remember that if you're submitting something that the I-140 was submitted, now you're going to do the I-485, you got to get the I-485J in there, something to remember. Okay, HR 8337 passed by the Senate. Here's my quick take. This is from Christy Turovsky. I think that was the pre and processing one, but let's see if I can find what her take is. Let's see. Oh, this one opens up the PDF. Which one was this? Continuing Appropriations Act. I think this was a pre and processing thing. We'll have more updates on what's going on with that later on once we get more information. The bad news is regarding what happened with DOL, where they said the new wage requirements are coming for foreign labor certification. Greg Siskin was posting on Twitter that this creates a weird situation where doctors now need to get paid the maximum amount, even if they're like residents or working in rural areas and stuff. So this is going to cause a lot of doctors that work in those areas to have to leave. I don't handle perm or labor certification, foreign labor certification, stuff like that, so it doesn't hit me directly. The consequences will, because people, when they're adjusting or citizenship or filing for spousal and stuff, it's going to hit along down the line. But it's going to really diminish EB2s and 3s. And Department of Labor just did it overnight. No rulemaking period, no 30, 60 days or 90 days or whatever. There's probably going to be lawsuits on this because it's not well thought out, but I think this administration on their way out, if they're not going to get reelected, they're going to burn the place down, which they already have been. I think they're torch it down to the foundation before they leave. So that's just a crazy situation. I had a post that said the wall grows taller. DHS proposed rule to strengthen affidavit support process. So their idea of strengthening affidavit support is having everyone do sponsors and joint sponsors do biometrics and getting voice recordings of them to check their voices and do iris scans. So that for some reason that's going to strengthen that. But mindful, the form I-865 is the sponsors reminders to the government of their address changes. Historically, no one sends that in, just like no one ever usually doesn't do the AR-11, but it's been okay. But you got to send that in because they're creating a crackdown on that system. So get into it. I remember several years ago, I submitted form I-865 for a client, for a petitioner, and it went. And then all of a sudden, we got like 2 months later, we got a document from the Department of State. And apparently, we sent it to USCIS. USCIS didn't know what to do with it, even though we sent it to the right place. So USCIS sent it to Department of State. Department of State didn't know what to deal with it, and they sent it back to us with showing the trail that it went through. So who knows what's going on? But send it in, give it a shot. You don't want that to be a problem later. Now, a crazy thing was there was a visa injunction on the work visa ban for H's, J's, L's, and stuff like that. But essentially now the government's saying they're only going to apply this to people that were part of the suing people. And one of them was a U.S. Business Chamber, whatever they call it, Chamber of Commerce. And so if you're like a member of that group, and then you're considered filing for that. So that's one thing, membership is going to be key and to take advantage of that. For example, the employer that petition to be able to overcome and use the injunction to your benefit. So that's something to check out if you had a case that was hit by the travel ban for H's, J's, and L's to overcome that aspect because of being a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So they talked about there's a preliminary injunction on the fee increase. That's on hold. Let's see. The Executive Office for Immigration Review announced, this is October 1st, the launch of 2 new public resources that increase access to information about the immigration law and URI proceedings. The Immigration Court Online Resource, ICOR, and the Pro Bono Portal also provide information about representation before EOIR's immigration courts and the Board of Immigration Appeals that benefits both aliens and proceedings. So keep in mind that stuff's there if you want to check it out. So yeah, premium processing greatly expanded, kind of a mess because it greatly expanded the time it takes to get pre-processing and the fees. Those are the primary stuff. And well, good thing is you could get EAD's pre-processing, but it's going to cost like $2,000 or something like that. What I do like about that is you could do premium processing for F1s. And the major problem I have so many cases that come to me where someone's on a B1, B2, and they want to change the status to an F1, which I don't bother doing because of the situation where if you change to an F1, the approval has to happen within 30 days of the start date of the course. If you're in a semester-based system, that may not work. So you have to file a bridge B1, B2 with that to hold it over. It has to get approved at the same time. And it's just rife with some problem happening, which I don't want to deal with, so I don't bother. But if a client comes to me, I say, if you're willing to pay premium processing, we'll time it. We'll get that change of status to F1. We'll get it in. So that works. And most of the time, F1 students, probably come from families that have money, so they could pay that fee. So that's going to be a really interesting thing that's popping up. Let's see what else is left. Okay, a lot of it repeat. Oh, reminder, I did an interview with our colleague, Angelo Paparelli, one of the godfathers, I guess, one of the old top dogs in the immigration field. We did it almost an hour and a half, I think, just jumping into it, talking about practice, what our thoughts are about laws, about, technical stuff. It's a fun interview. If you're a practitioner, check it out. Podcast episode 154 with immigration lawyer, blogger, and advocate, Angelo Paparelli. I'm sure you all know about him, but you get a different perspective from his thoughts. I talked with Karen Woolman. She was a colleague we did an interview with, going 10 questions with her. But that was based on a fact that we did a CLE with 4 of our other colleagues going over UK-based immigration. And I don't think I gave a CLE credit because I feel like doing the paperwork. But it's about over an hour, I think, talking about civil document processing, immigrant visa processing, national issues, documents, all this kind of stuff with 4 of our fellow colleagues about, UK visa. So check that out and check out the interview with her. Karen Woolman was one of the initial people doing O1s and Ps because she learned to do it from the person, the immigration lawyer that helped draft the laws. And so she's heavy in the game. She does all sorts of other cases, but she's a really good resource for O1P. So check out the free interview that we did, podcast episode. We did learn a lot about that there. And then, check out the, if you're interested in UK processing, if you deal with nationals, either purchase a la carte or just join the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, the monthly program. We're adding more and more countries, breaking down what they're doing. I think I'm going to be adding, what country was I going to be adding? Brazil's coming up with one of our colleagues, so breaking that in. We did a detail about Iran, I did myself. Japan, so a lot of different countries, India, Iraq. I'm going to do Iraq. We haven't got it, but Syria, Lebanon. There's a lot of good information there on the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox that you can get. And judge prohibits ICE from deporting man detained on church grounds. That's nice. I think that was overturned, though. I think they got him or something. Another thing is USCIS updated its policy manual about Communist Party membership. So it wasn't much of a change, but you got to go talk to your clients. One thing when you're talking with Chinese clients, be mindful that a lot of times when they're kids, like in high school or elementary school, they're forced to join the Communist Youth League or whatever they call it. So I tell them in my adjustment applications, my clients had done that, that we mention and say, listen, it wasn't voluntary. The teachers forced them to do that. And as soon as they got out of high school, they stopped it. It's just a forced thing. And that itself is an exemption. The other thing to be mindful of Chinese cases is after the Tiananmen Square massacre that happened, every Chinese person that's going to college has to do some like 2-week propaganda course where they do marching and they just, just spray propaganda in the ear and stuff like that. And so it's semi kind of military training, but not really. I say no to the question about military to that, but I add an addendum explanation and say, hey, listen, they have to go 2 weeks in March. So take it as it is. They don't believe in the Communist Party. They don't believe anything, but they want to go to college. So they're forced to do it. And so that also falls in exemption and shouldn't be an issue. But nowadays, I just list it on there once I learned about this stuff that existed. All right. So, yeah, there's just so much happening. It's like, bam, bam, this happened, that happened. It's kind of crazy situation. I'm going through this. It's just... it's mind-blowing that our practice is changing. I mean, it's been 3 weeks and there's all these massive kind of changes that are happening. But I think that'll be it. I'm sure it's your minds are exploding from thinking on this stuff and going through it. Like there's one wicked part. Apparently, the Justice Department officials said when they were making the policy on holding migrant kids, they said, quote, we need to take away the children on purpose so they could dissuade the kind of stuff. That was intentional. Kind is like an immigration pro bono clinic or group. They're hiring immigration staff attorney in Los Angeles. So check that out if you're interested. Prevailing wages are going massively high because of the new DOL changes. BAL, BAL is, what does BAL stand for? BAL is one of the big immigration law firms. Okay, cool. I mean, a lot of small, this cool thing is once I got an Immigration Lawyers Toolbox and I'll connect with so many of our colleagues everywhere, the immigration game is pretty complex when it comes to the business aspects. So we have, full solos like me, we have smalls, we have medians, and we have big people fragmented. But BAL is one of the big ones, BAL. The name is coming in my head, but my assistant, my beautiful assistant, is Barry Appleman Leiden. Of course, I knew that, but it didn't pop in my head. They're opening up offices in Chicago, so corporate immigration office in Chicago. So we have a new player in town, but they do great work and they're working really hard. So welcome, and hope you guys keep doing some good work helping people get everything together. Clinic, which we talk about frequently here, Catholic Legal Immigration Network Incorporated, has a resource page they created. Let me see if I can find the URL. Breaking down state-specific toolkit on ineligibility for public benefits. So that's something to read because it's so confusing of knowing what's going on public charge. How does my client get affected by it? So the URL, let's see how complicated it is to see online. It's too complicated. This is why you got to go to LinkedIn and follow the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox as I post these all there. If you're an immigration attorney, join the Facebook page. It's for practicing private immigration attorneys only. I have a lot of students and paralegals and assistants. Unfortunately, it's only for practicing immigration attorneys because I go deep into certain marketing stuff I wanted to share there. But the LinkedIn page has most of it. So Immigration Toolbox, but I guess type in clinic, summary of immigration and eligibility for federal public benefits. It's a great resource there, state by state, that helps you figure this stuff out. Because God knows who knows what's going on with it. EOIR just hired 20 new immigration judges. They're saying a 70% expansion of the immigration judge corps since 2017. Hopefully that comes out good, but we'll probably not. But it is what it is. And I guess that's the last one. So ending this October, what is it? October 12th is today. In a couple more weeks, so maybe a week or two, we'll do a follow-up, some new updates. But I like talking about this stuff and seeing how it affects stuff. I mean, it's been positive. The fee increase didn't happen. We have a bunch of new cases coming, but it's just a nightmare all around with what's coming down the pipeline. I think this affiliate support joint sponsor headache, it's going to be big because it's going to scare off so many people from doing these family cases, from big joint sponsors, and that's going to be so sad. Some couples, just graduating from college, and they have to get a joint sponsor to make it more work for them. What are you going to do if the sponsor, the primary sponsor, is out overseas? They're domiciled here, but their spouse waiting to come with them. Are they going to have to do affiliate support biometrics? Like, is the biometrics only if you're doing adjustment, or if you're doing constant processing too? So I'll be honest, I haven't read through the details of it. I don't want to. I'm like, okay, just see what happens. But there's going to be lawsuits against it, so that's coming. And doing great work. Ayla hired this gentleman, Jesse something, Hem or something like that. I'm going to try to contact him. I'm making notes, contact him right now to have him on the show. And he's been really good, instrumental in doing a lot of good lawsuits. And so I want to have him on, talk about it. There's been some controversy if you're on the Ayla listservs and stuff, where they're talking about the fee increases that came. It kind of popped up. There was a discussion about it in the Rome district. But now everyone's getting word, the bogs are putting it down in the different chapters, that the fee increases are happening. And there's a lot of controversy. Some people are saying, what's going on? Why are there these fee increases? Others are saying, listen, look all the good litigation they're doing. Look all the new material. And Ayla is putting a ton of material out. It's kind of the same kind of material I'm putting out in the toolbox. But the more, the merrier. Let's get this information out to help people become better immigration attorneys. That's always the goal has to be, how can we be better? And so whatever helps with that, I'm on that mindset to help that as well. Now the fee increase happening. Now this might be controversial, but for those who are challenging the fee increase or not happy about it, how could a fee increase by a couple $100s affect you if you're in immigration? We're lawyers. You should be making enough money. I'll be real with you. You should be making enough money where an extra $100, $200, $300 is not going to affect your life. If anything, is supporting a cause that's helpful. How is that challenging? And some people are not getting ALA because they're saying it's too expensive. It's like, dude, let me tell you, I not only am I ALA member, I'm going to be next year probably in the top tier of it with the amount of years I'm practicing the membership on how much this stuff will cost. But I'm a member of the San Diego chapter, the Southern California chapter, the Nevada chapter, the Santa Clara chapter, the Northern California chapter, Rome district. And then I went and added just recently, I added like a couple of days ago, after I had the interview with Fiona McEntee, because she's in the Chicago chapter, and I have clients go through the Chicago CBP portal. So I'm like, I got to get connected with CBP in Chicago, go to their meetings, or at least get their notes and stuff, see what's going on in that office. So I went and joined Chicago. When I was there, I'm like, well, I'll join Canada, I'll join Bangkok, I'll join Colorado, I joined New York, I joined Texas. I'm like, these are all big fields. That costs a bunch of money more, but it's like, it's an investment. You invest $1,000 in this or $2,000, you're going to get $50,000 back. It's like, it's better than any stock. It's better than buying anything. It's like unbelievable. I mean, you got to spend the time to study it, but I don't get paid. I should get paid by ALA for being a sponsor of the podcast, but but it's like, you shouldn't be worrying about extra 1,000 here or 1,000 there. You should be making extra 10,000 here, 10,000 there. And ALA, these memberships gives you the tools to do that if you know how to use it properly, and that's the key. And I recommend you all do that. With that said, I want to thank everybody for watching this episode, listening in. Definitely leave a 5-star review if you are a listener, and so we get more traction and get more people learning about it, helping them out. Join the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox if you're interested in getting the monthly program, or if you're interested in the Champions for Freedom, so you get buy your freedom and not have to worry about fee dues increases, buy your freedom and not have to worry about a partner telling you how to run your case low when you can do it yourself. Get your freedom and define the cases that you need and make the money that you need and work, and spend time with your family, not have to do a bunch of crazy work and deal with people that you don't want to deal with. Take control of your life, buy your freedom, and then help other people immigrate and come to the United States to get their freedom as well. That's why it's a Champions for Freedom program. We've helped several people, many students, do this and really grow their practice and have independence. And that's the main thing in life, is to be independent and be your own person. That's a wonderful way to do it. So having said that, I wish you all the best. And until next time, God bless. Be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you.